Indeed, Vuyo, we are aging closer and closer to the Premier making his way into this change Bible church here in Katlehong to deliver that opening of the 7th legislature here in Gauteng. But you know that it didn't come easily to form this government, this new government, because the ANC, as it was in negotiations with the Democratic Alliance, those negotiations fell through, and then the ANC had to form a minority government. So they've had to consult some of these parties before this opening of the 7th legislature. But with us, we do have the DA Gauteng leader, Solly Msimang. Mr. Msimang, there were those negotiations between yourselves and the ANC. They didn't work. Are they still ongoing? What is happening there with the ANC right now?
Well, we've written formally to Premier Panyaza Lesufi and said to DA Lesufi, if he's serious about engaging with the DA and forming a solid government that should last 5 years, we're more than happy to engage. But we're not going to engage if it's just, that they wanting voting fathers and people who are just going to be voting for them and actually having no impact in terms of what is happening in government. Because the people of Gauteng have spoken, and that's how they voted. They've said we're not giving any one political party the majority to then decide on what needs to happen. Parties must come around the table, must reform government and how government delivers to them. And this is something that we are sticking to. And we have written to them and said, once they're good and ready to do that, we're more than happy to engage them.
Okay. And today, the 7th administration here in Gauteng is going to outline some of its plans. What is the expectation from yourselves at the DA when the Premier does speak? What do you expect him to talk about?
Well, we're not expecting much. You just need to look at the budget that has just been passed right now to see that there is not much that is going to happen. In fact, I think there's going to be regression in terms of a number of portfolios. You just need to look at safety and security. There's going to be a regress. There's a deduction in terms of the money that is allocated there. There's a deduction in the money that is allocated to human settlements. There's a deduction in social development, which means that the NGOs that are now doing so much great work that government is failing to do is going to find themselves now even more at a disadvantage. And we are seeing more lack of planning in terms of infrastructure. Gauteng is falling apart in terms of its infrastructure, roads, our rail is falling apart. Yes, they don't have an authority over the rail, but we thought that they would, knowing how the economy is supposed to be going, we thought that they will take charge in terms of dealing with that. Our water infrastructure, our electricity infrastructure, we need to then be assisting municipalities in terms of dealing with that infrastructure. We need to be stimulating the economy, but there's no plan to stimulate the economy of Gauteng, where we are saving 36% unemployment and growing, and where we actually now see more and more young people who are growing more and more impatient. And this is why we're also seeing crimes that are getting out of hand here in Gauteng. And this talks to a government that is unable to plan, that is unable to execute its own plans. I mean, you need to just look at the GGT 30, the Growing Gauteng Together 2030. They are now 6 years before that, the end of that. And if you go and ask them how much of that have they really even achieved, you find that this much has actually been achieved. And this is, again, going to be some of the same that we're going to hear today. And as I said, you just need to then revisit the budget that just been passed now last week, and you realize that we're not going anywhere here.
Quickly, the Gauteng government has identified local government as a serious challenge. And on Friday, we're going to be seeing the election of a new mayor in Johannesburg. Will the DA be putting forward its own candidate for the Joburg mayor?
Johannesburg has had 6 mayors in a space of 3 years or less. And this is not sustainable. It's really not sustainable. And this is why we as a DA have been calling for the dissolution of the Johannesburg Council and calling for fresh elections so that we are able to then go and seek a fresh mandate from the voters or from the residents of Johannesburg to say we cannot continue to have a mayor that has been introduced every 6 months. We need stability in Johannesburg. Johannesburg should actually be the heartbeat of the South African economy. But at this point in time, it's hemorrhaging and it's actually causing so much harm and damage for the rest of South Africa economic-wise. And therefore, we now need to then say, will just changing a face really bring in the impact that the city of Johannesburg is needing and ultimately, the whole of Gauteng and South Africa? Or can we then say, really, what we're having right now is an unstable and unsustainable, arrangements that are being shifted here now and then? Or can we then say, are we really ready to put the residents of Johannesburg first? And if we are seriously about putting the residents of Johannesburg first, one of the things that we should be asking is, can we go back to them and say, we are all seeking a fresh mandate. Give us a mandate so that we can go into government and do what needs to be done without having this circus of every 6 months being told that there's going to be a new mayor that is going to be sworn in. That is not sustainable, and that also now creates more problems, because with a new mayor comes in a new executive committee. The executive committee have to find their feet before anything can be done, and that is 6 months down the line again, and before anything could really be substantially done, we're back, with motions of no confidence again. And this is something that we also want to then propose to the ANC, to then say, we cannot continue to have these motions of no confidence on an ongoing basis. We need to then have, whether they are in charge or whether we're in charge, can we agree on certain things that needs to be done, and make sure that once those things are being done, then we avoid these issues of having motions of no confidence, because really this is not helping the residents of Gauteng at all. It actually takes the residents of Gauteng back. I'm told that now there might be something in Ekurhuleni again. You would know that 2 weeks ago there was an attempt in Tshwane as well. That is not sustainable, and this is something that is going to call for political maturity and say, can we agree on what needs to be done in terms of delivery? Can we agree on how we can sustain government or governments, up to the end of their term without bringing in so much disruption and the stop-start, that we have been seeing happening here.
Thank you so much. That is the DA Gauteng leader, Mr. Solim Singh Mangvuyo, just talking about the instability in the Gauteng metros, in particular when it comes to Joburg. We saw the mayor of Johannesburg, Kabelo Kwamanda, resigning on Tuesday, and we do expect that extraordinary sitting of council on Friday, where the ANC has indicated that it's going to put forward its own regional chairperson, Dada Morero, as the new leader. Solim Simang, they're just saying that the instability is working against the people of Gauteng and causing a lot of challenges. But I'll just step out of picture, Vuyo, and just show you some of those MECs that are just sitting now, just waiting to take a picture. We are just waiting for the Premier of the province, Panyaza Lesufi, just to make his way here, and then he's going to take a picture with most of these MECs and these leaders here in Gauteng before proceeding to open that 7th legislature, Vuyo.
Juniour Khumalo, keeping an eye there on that much expected speech. Panyaza Lesufi going to officially open the province's 7th legislature